for fear of ridicule, for fear of failure, because I was already being judged at every step. I sort of stopped believing in myself. Growing up, I was a pretty hyperactive kid. Honestly, I used to get into trouble quite a bit. Straight from even the preschool days, I was one of the notorious kids. But then in 8th grade, I switched schools, and that was an incredibly difficult experience for me because I went to a completely different kind of environment, and that's when a lot of bullying started, a lot of social isolation started. It was 31 people in that class, I still remember, and it felt like it was 30 versus me the entire time. I went into a shell. I became extremely shy. I became fearful of taking opportunities for fear of ridicule, for fear of failure, because I was already being judged at every step. That brings about an element of shame, I would say, because then it's your inherent character, just who you are as a person, gets attacked so much. It's not only then them bullying you, it's also you bullying yourself throughout the day. 10th grade, during the boards time, that's, I think, my first recollection of binge eating because I was stressed. So I remember, I think I used to consume a jar of Nutella a day. Sort of, it was pretty ridiculous. I think the biggest trouble was because over the course of 5 years, I had just trained myself in a way to just completely go to the negatives, right? That's when I also started introspecting about, the things I maybe could have done in school. And, there are times where maybe at night you're in a completely different headspace and you go back into those unproductive coping mechanisms, but then you wake up in the morning and you see the scars on your hand or the scratches on yourself and you realize, what am I doing? So that was sort of a tipping point for me. You don't deserve this, what you're doing to yourself, right? You've convinced yourself you don't. Self-harm serves two purposes. Firstly, you're punishing yourself because you've convinced yourself you deserve to be punished. To reiterate, you do not, right? Think about it. Would you harm someone else? If the answer is no, then why are you harming a human being? Secondly, it's seen as a quick fix, right? Because even from personal experience, that release of endorphins from the pain that makes you numb, it's not going to get you anywhere, right? It's only going to make things worse. The more you repress, the worse it gets. I came back to Bombay. I got a job in a law firm, a pretty large law firm. When I told my peers that, I'm going into capital markets, everyone's stock response was, bless your soul. The work hours can be as much as 15 to 16 hours a day. And it starts building up your frustration. And that's when really the binge eating also got to a completely different level. I think in office, it's like there's a group of people, they go down for smoke breaks and you want to build your professional connection. So you go down with them, you start having your smokes and whatnot with them. On the few free nights that you get or an early night that you get, you go out, you party, you stuff yourself with food because that's the only thing that's bringing you comfort anymore. 6 months into the job, I then reached a tipping point where I was like, I need something to change, because at this rate, I'm either going to eat myself to a heart attack or drink myself to death. That's when I really started then exploring therapy as an alternative. And it's pretty counterintuitive because from childhood itself, you're taught about stranger danger, right? So you want that confidence that, okay, they are actually focused on relationship building and there's an element of care. Amaha, when I was trying to pick my therapist, had that filter of, okay, what are the issues that you want to focus on? And then they gave me a curated list of therapists who are specializing in that thing. So the first session, it gave me a lot of comfort knowing that firstly, the therapist is taking that initiative to want to tailor the sessions, to want to build the kind of rapport. And tailor the experience according to how I wanted. That was the biggest thing that gave me comfort. As the sessions kept going on, when I felt myself firstly getting more comfortable with the therapist itself, and then you start noticing little changes, and when you see that, okay, even though it starts out small, when you see small positive changes, it makes you believe that, okay, this is the right thing. Psychiatry is something that my therapist first brought up, is that, a year into therapy is like, okay, there are some things that we're not able to make as much progress on. As a supplement, are you open to psychiatry, to medication? I refused flat out. Firstly, I was like, absolutely not, and I explained all of this to my therapist. So they said, all right, fair enough. Just keep thinking about it. The good thing is they didn't push me, right? They were like, okay, whatever is comfortable for you. I don't remember the exact incident, but there was again another tipping point where I felt like, okay, you know what, let's just go for it. My therapist recommended a psychiatrist to me, and they then spoke to the psychiatrist, shared their notes, what their takeaways is. Because the therapist is there on the back end to give all the context, you don't really need the same kind of time with your psychiatrist. So that is where it becomes an entire system of support. It's a huge shift for me, right? Because I've gone from being a completely isolated individual to now I have like a very good close set of friends. So I do still sometimes have a tendency to go into my shell. There are times where, if something happens, I won't want to reach out to my friends. But you do start working towards being more social, being more accepting of help, and being in a position to then be able to help others as well. It doesn't have to happen at the get-go. It's a slow process. But believe in yourself, show love and compassion for yourself. Over time, you will get there.